All right, it's Debbie Potts, and I am on a roll focused on how to clear up some of this, I think, confusion out there on social media and podcasting on how you should best fuel and train for the aging athlete and the female athlete. What do you need to do to improve performance? What should you eat to improve your performance? It is, I think, slightly individual, but it also depends, of course, male versus female. And females, where we are in our menstrual cycle or our hormones as we get older, we reach 10 years or more before that one day in time is menopause, when you have no period after 1 year. Suddenly you are in menopause for one day, and the next day you're in postmenopause. If you did not know that, it's one day you're in menopause. So you're perimenopause, premenopause, or postmenopause. It's kind of funny marketing, I think. But it's confusing to me listening to little clips of different people in the industry talking about how you should eat or fuel with calories before a workout. It depends on the intensity and duration, but it also depends if you are efficient at burning fat. If you're metabolically healthy and you are a better fat oxidizer, as I just recorded an audio podcast on what is fat oxidation, we want to look at what is necessary. All right, so we talked a lot on the video already, previous videos, on matching and fueling and training to improve performance and recovery. Dr. Stacy Sims teaches us great information on fueling in and around our workouts, but the harder, more intense workouts. Sometimes you might not hear that part, that the fueling she suggested, I just heard again today, based on if it's strength training, if it's a hard, intense workout, or if it's just a long zone 1, 2 type of workout, or she talks about her longer swims. What works for you might not work the same for somebody else. Yes, I think you need to fuel, but how much? Protein, carbs, fats, I think depends. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an exercise physiologist. I'm just a curious person who likes to go down different rabbit holes and realize that it is not one size fits all, but one size fails all. And we need to really think of bioindividuality, genetics, blood sugar response, your stress, your sleep. But how much is too much carbohydrates pre-workout that might spike my glucose up too high or too low for someone that they're not going to reach their high heart rate in a intense workout. So we looked at in a previous episode, I was looking at carb tolerance and low EA versus low carb availability, and really looking at how much fuel do we need in our bloodstream at once. So if it's 1 teaspoon of glucose, if we need to fuel before a workout to avoid a cortisol stress response, we can look up all these different hormones. I put in this really long LEA versus low carb availability, but looking at how much glucose do we need in our bloodstream at one time? I think that is one thing to look at. So somewhere in here, I went into that. So this is a really long rabbit hole I went into. So you can read about the hormones and glucose and the right amount of glucose we need in our bloodstream. So if we go back to looking at how much fuel you need pre-workout to make sure your body knows it's safe, I'm curious if the recommendations of 30 to 40 grams of carbohydrates might be too high for some people. So let's dive into a lot of the information I've talked about for sure the last 5-10 years, but more recently, last 5 years, we got into fasting, and now we're out of fasting, and keto, into protein, carnivore is just all over the place. But focusing on today's rabbit hole on how to eat for females as we age to improve performance depends again on the intensity of the workout. Rob Wolf talks about not all carbs of evil. We did a podcast with him 4 years ago. I've talked to Keto Gains founders. We've talked to all sorts of different people on fueling for your sport. Peter Defty, we've had many episodes with. Maffetone, I talked to a few times over the past 15 years. And so there's lots and lots of information out there on this podcast platform and the YouTube channel on fueling, fat adapted, fat oxidation, whatever you want to call it. So if we look at intensity, we talk about less is more, acute stressor in exercise versus a chronic stressor. So exercise as a hormetic stressor, we're talking about that type of workout that isn't too stressful for the body that's going to lead to physiological and molecular responses that over time result in improved fitness and health. So you can go into what hormesis is, a stress and adaptation. Stress we're putting on our muscles, cardiovascular system, and other bodily systems. This stress leads to small-scale damage and disruption at a cellular level. In response to the stress, our body activates various pathways and processes that help repair the damage and enhance its ability to handle similar stresses in the future. This includes processes as inflammation, increased oxygen utilization, and the release of growth factors. Then we get enhanced resiliency. So with regular controlled exposure to doses of stress, as we are talking about today, exercise stress, our body becomes more efficient at repairing the damage and adapting to the demands placed on it. This results in increased strength, increased endurance, cardiovascular fitness, and other positive outcomes. Now, over time, the cumulative effects of these adaptive responses translate into improved overall health, reduced risk of chronic disease, and better mental well-being. So hormesis is dose dependent. So when we hear things as HIIT training is good for us, sprint interval training is good for us, don't take that as more is better. That's the first thing I want to clarify. Then we'll get to fueling. But the right amount of stress that's acute is really important, especially as we age and we have more stressors externally and internally accumulating, as well as mold toxicity, exposures to toxins in our environment. It's just all these stressors. We need to have just a little dose of stress so we can adapt and get stronger and allow our body to get more resilient without being overwhelmed. So these are just examples as of how hormesis works in the body. And like strength training, you're breaking down the muscle, cold plunge. So when we're talking about stressors, when we exercise, we want to make sure it's not too stressful for the body. But we also want to work with the individual, meet them where they're at, make sure we're doing the right type of exercise that might be necessary when you have more stress in your life to do zone 1 type of work, more restorative exercises, yoga, walking, gentle. So going back to nutrition, some notes Stacy Sims has said in other podcasts. We get stronger from our exercise session in the recovery period. With the saying, train hard, recover harder is what I used to always talk about. What you eat, when you eat, and how you eat is what I say is essential to what the nutrients we get in our food to improve performance. So we want to make sure we're getting nutrition in and around the workouts. Now, if we don't eat post-exercise, Stacy Sims says we are staying, females, in a depleted breakdown state. Remember, breakdown is catabolic, resulting in poor or lack of adaptation to that training exercise stress. So we just talked about what hormesis is to understand what that acute stress is. But if we don't stop that stressor and tell our body, hey, we're safe, we have food on board, that acute stress may be interpreted as a chronic stressor to our body, and we have lack of adaptation to that training exercise stress that we just had in a workout. I've heard too, when we don't refuel post-workout, she says, Stacy Sims talks about, we're telling our hypothalamus that we're in low energy state, which if you do that over and over again, say example in this podcast, I think is from Huberman, 4 days in a row that you're not eating afterwards. Well, now that accumulated, and now our body thinks we're in a catabolic breakdown state, chronic stress. And down regulates our thyroid hormone when we are sensing low energy on board, which I think is referring to that low energy availability that I talk about in this other blog post, really long rabbit hole. I'll work on recording, but talking about the kisspeptin hormone and other hormones that are discussed for females, why fasting and too much exercise and not eating can cause this issue. All right, so what are the solutions? Stacy Sims talks about eating pre-workout, and it's not not a lot. It's just a little bit. And I think this is a good point to make, that her suggestions, if you want to try them to see if you improve your performance and maybe get your body out of that stress state, especially if you have way too much stress already, that not eating pre-workout and post-workout may be contributing to that stress beaker that is already overfilled, right? So if you can just eat 100 calories pre-workout, just a little bit of carbohydrates or maybe a little bit of calories in your coffee or tea or something easy to digest, because I know I'm not going to eat something at 4:45 in the morning when I go in the gym at 5:15. So eating something 30 minutes before, but if I have a coffee with a little bit of free minute, and she is suggesting having 15 grams of protein and 30 grams of carbohydrates. Now, to me, my body, 30 grams of carbohydrates pre-workout might be too much. I haven't really tried it, to be honest, because it's just too much food. I can do a half a bar, and a Laird's bar, I think I'm getting like 10, 15 grams of carbohydrates. So if you are better at oxidizing fat for fuel and getting into fat metabolism, maybe you don't need 30 grams of carbohydrates, but you could benefit from a little. This is where I think we need to clarify that experiment, figure out what works best for you, how much protein and carbohydrates. If a study said 15 grams or 30 grams of carbs, well, what is that study based on? How many people were in the study and what ages were they, and genetics and all that. But I still think studies are just giving us some information, and maybe they took the average and this is what worked. But we can't say all women need 15 grams of protein, 30 grams of carbs. I think try it, experiment, and then adjust. Post-workout, Stacy Sims talks about 30 grams to 40 grams of protein with a little bit of carbohydrate to decrease your body's signals that you are in a catabolic breakdown state and give the body the ingredients it needs to rebuild, recover, and repair post-workout damage. I get that. I often forget and maybe wait more than 30 minutes to eat, but that is a good guideline. I do want to go back to this pre-workout fuel, because this is what I was listening to came up again. I think it's a new reel being shared or clip on the video from a podcast about pre-workout fueling. And Stacy Sims does say it depends if it's strength workout, just protein. If it's her long swim, maybe you're doing a long workout, protein and carbs. I think if it's a low zone 1-2 workout, you don't need to have 30 grams of carbohydrates. So we really need to look at, not every workout needs 15 grams of protein, 30 grams of carbs. If that is all female, need to do that. I think you need to look at what is the workout at hand and how do we need to match our fueling for that workout intensity, duration, really important. All right, so post-workout, that makes sense, right? We don't want to be in a breakdown state and going back to this up here that we're telling our body we're safe, we're not in a low energy state anymore, and that we are able to eat and get something on board. Now, for females, as we age and our hormones are lower, we're more insulin insensitive or insulin resistant. And you should get your insulin always tested. Again, your doctor will not take that insulin test for you. You need to order it on your own, sadly. But post-workout nutrition, timing your nutrition and your carbohydrates in and around that workout are beneficial because we have what's called GLUT4. Post-workout, we're able to pull that glucose into the muscle cell without the need of insulin. So beneficial of timing your food and having your carbohydrates from nature, not crappy processed stuff, post-workout, so that you're refueling your muscle glycogen stores. So the next day when you go exercise, you have fuel on board for your next workout. Now, next note says, by prioritizing protein post-workout session provides your body with essential amino acids it requires to promote muscle protein synthesis. And I've talked a lot about that in other videos because I was doing this October 30-day muscle protein synthesis challenge with perfect aminos and eating your protein each meal. I just had 2 double burgers, 2 patties for 50 grams of protein, and I'm full. But we want to get that muscle protein synthesis post resistance training, lifting heavy weights, and after your high intensity interval training or post long endurance training. So Stacy Sims talks about prioritizing protein post session. I would like it in a meal rather than a shake. So do what you can do on that part. Now, by fueling up post exercise, we're giving also avoiding our risk for low energy availability. We talked about that before about the hypothalamus. So that's a big part. I think a lot of times we don't eat enough. Example for me, on Saturdays, if we do a long bike ride, I might have a bar on a bike ride and we get home, shower, I might eat something. But because we're out riding for 4 hours and I ate something before the bike ride, often a little food or just coffee with fat, butter, and cream in my coffee and salt, I don't eat enough food those days. So the low energy availability, I said in a previous episode, I don't think necessarily it's low carb availability for a lot of us. We're getting those carbs in, but we're not getting enough calories in overall because we tend to skip meals or fasting too much is the history of a lot of people. Now, fueling will help feed our microbiome, help support our gut wall lining, mucosal lining, protein timing and distribution. You can talk to or listen to Dr. Gabrielle Lyons' many podcasts on that topic, focusing on the larger leucine intake within those essential aminos. 2.7 to 3.5 grams of leucine needs to be in that essential amino acid profile to signal the muscle to induce muscle protein synthesis. We want to focus on getting 30 to 40 grams of protein each meal, even 50 grams, spread out 3 to 4 hours. So remember that 1 pound of protein or 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight is what we want to look at. I'm I hate saying large person. I'm a tall person and I need to get 150 grams of protein a day. So getting 50 grams 3 times a day, plus I'm doing essential aminos in the morning and at night. And that will help because I don't often get those 150 grams. Focusing on getting the right protein throughout the day. Stop eating your last meal 3 hours before your bed so you don't negatively impact your sleep quality, because while you're sleeping, you're supposed to be resting and recovering, repairing, detoxification happens. The glymphatic system, you learn about all this stuff, what happens when we're sleeping. But if you eat a big meal and then go to bed, guess what's happening? Your body's digesting, not detoxifying. Now, if you're plant-based, as Stacy Sims is, and she shares that, she is more plant-based. Her recommendations of having almond milk and bread and more foods that I wouldn't eat myself because they don't do well in my body, that's where we need to adjust those recommendations for what to eat for that right fuel and personalize those recommendations. Just because she's plant-based doesn't mean you have to have almond milk and not something else. If you can tolerate dairy, maybe some heavy cream, or look at some other options as I do. Laird's coffee creamer has some coconut creamer and coconut sugar in there if you want to get the carbs and some good MCTs. Now, we really all agree on getting the right protein and leucine, the amino acids. But with your plant-based, you have to be really creative to hit that leucine threshold of about 3 grams So you have to double what you're doing to get the right amino acid profile. It's 50 grams of rice and pea protein blend might be equivalent to 20 grams of the right aminos. So check out what you're taking and do a little deep dive into the amino acid profile in those foods. We all agree, I started to say this, on avoiding processed and fortified foods. You don't want to get fortified folic acid and all these vitamins that are fortified in your food are not real and they're not going to be converted. So eat real food. Try to not do shakes and bars, but that's a great backup plan. And choose nutrient density, single food ingredient list, I would say first. Avoid packaged stuff when you can. Now we want to focus on a diverse diet, improve diversity of our good bacteria and microbiome. And there's some research coming out that people are super strict carnivore and they're looking at their microbiome, they're not getting a good diversity in their good bacteria. So planning ahead to get the good nutrient dense protein, some carbs post meal when a harder, intense workout session. So you're avoiding stressing the body, telling it to stay in a catabolic state and impacting your thyroid and slowing your metabolism down. So actually eating something instead of you think you're going to lose weight. If I don't eat anything, keep fat burning state, you're actually perhaps causing your metabolism to slow down by slowing your metabolism down by your thyroid slower and your body in breaking down instead of building. So we got to switch our mindset that calories in, calories out theory, it doesn't work. And you want to look at the guidelines for athletes and female athletes as we get older and our hormones changing. So working on your intensity, duration, schedule, food choices, matching what you eat. So what I was listening to in this Instagram, she was talking about her almond milk is sweetened, so that's her carbohydrates, and her protein powder for her protein, and puts that in coffee. And I take it she makes it the night before, so she has it cold in the fridge for her morning drink. So that's her protein powder in the coffee. She talked about circulating amino acids, carb and protein before some workouts. As she's example was her ocean swim, she has carbs and protein. She did say strength training, she'll have around 15 grams of protein pre-workout to get the fuel on board, and it helps increases post-workout epoch. So that the resting metabolism rate stays elevated post-workout and helps with post-exercise recovery. So the strength training, she doesn't talk about carbohydrates. If you're just doing heavy lifting, she just talks about having the protein pre-workout. Now, I don't like having a whey protein powder in my coffee or pre-workout drink. I'd rather do the essential amino acids from Kion or from Body Health Perfect Aminos, and then have some coffee with some heavy cream and some butter for my calories. So it depends. Now, having a more longer duration workout is suggested having 30 grams of carbohydrates. That's what I'm questioning. I don't think I need that much, but if your performance is struggling and you're not as good as a fat burner, if you do your resting metabolism test and we see you burning 50% fat, 50% carbohydrates, maybe you take longer to burn fat and maybe you need a little more carbohydrates and someone else is better at oxidizing fat at a faster rate. So it depends is the answer. So half an hour before your workout, just experiment. It doesn't have to be coffee, but it can be something else. She talks about just enough food or fuel to bring the blood sugar up. But that's my question is 30 grams necessary of carbohydrates when the blood glucose just needs 1 teaspoon of glucose. And that's not very much. So figure out what's best for you. Now, pre-workout, her example, I broke it down. 100 to 150 calories before your workout. Prevent the session in depleted state is suggested. Even a small amounts, as in your coffee or tea, can be beneficial. 15 grams of protein and carbs we just went over. This will help preserve muscle, so we're not in a catabolic breakdown state. Provides energy without causing full stomach before training. And then she talks about post-workout, 30 to 40 grams of protein immediately after your workout to prevent staying in a catabolic breakdown state. getting the right amount of leucine in the essential amino acid profile to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. I choose getting that from Kion or Body Health Perfect Aminos, and then eating real food is a better option. Now, carbohydrates, you can pair protein with some nature's carbs. I'm not into eating bread and having inflammatory foods. We want to make sure they're good carbohydrates for you. So maybe it's some berries if it's in season, or something else that's easy to digest, organic, ideally, looking at what you're eating that's not processed packaged foods. Pairing the protein with some carbs to enhance that glucose uptake in the muscle cells without spiking insulin. So remember, we have that window when we're able to get the fuel back into the muscles without insulin, because we're more insulin insensitive with our lower hormones for us females. And a lot of people, men and women, I find are insulin resistant and not metabolically healthy. So this is why we need to adjust these suggestions, that it's not everybody do it this way. Overall nutrition, she talks about spreading the protein out, intake evenly. And Gabrielle Lyon talks about this: 30, 40 grams of protein every 3 to 4 hours to maintain muscle protein synthesis throughout the day. There's some studies that challenge this. Maybe you don't really need it every 4 hours. Maybe you could just have one big bolus, but there's no way I'm going to eat 100 grams of protein. I could do 50 grams of protein, but I think I'd be so stuffed, which is why I eat protein, because it fills you up and you're satiated. Stop eating before bed. We all agree on that. Stop eating 2-3 hours before bedtime to enhance sleep quality, crucial for your recovery. Special considerations. This is just a summary of what I went over, just to make it more clear. Plant-based athletes need a higher amount of protein, because that saying from Body Health Perfect Aminos, not all protein is equal. So rice and pea protein blend, 50 grams of it is more equal to 20 grams. I'm not for sure, but say example is probably equivalent to 20 grams of a whey protein. So you have to get the right essential amino acids to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. Now, avoiding processed foods and fortified items, using shakes and bars as needed as a supplement when you don't have access to making a meal at home. Now, the hormonal considerations is a big thing. While we talk about peri and postmenopause women, I'm actually kind of sick of the topic. It's all everyone talks about now is peri postmenopause. Yes, I'm a female. I should be rah. We're finally talking about all this, but it's like oversaturated right now. It's driving me nuts. We do need to take all that consideration. It is all valid information. Look at hormone supplementation, hormone replacement therapy is beneficial. Listen to interview I had with Karen Martell on the video podcast channel. So again, Stacey has her recommendations: almond milk with sweetener, protein powder. That works for her. That would not work for me. I try to limit my oxalates, phytates, lectins. So I'm not going to do a lot of almonds, and I don't like almond milk. So that is not a suggestion for me. So you need to remember, what works for somebody else isn't always the solution. That you need to follow the exact nutrition program that they do, because you're not the same as them. But the premise behind it is getting some type of carbohydrate, could be 10 grams, as putting a Laird's coffee creamer in my coffee might be enough for me, or having a half of a bar pre-workout. Now, amino acids we need to have on board, support muscle function and recovery, and especially longer workouts, talking about carbs and protein. But it depends. You listen to Dan Plews, he says if you have carbs pre-workout, you blunt fat oxidation. I think we need to test this, and women are going to be different than men, but looking at, your fueling system in the fuel chart, oxidative phosphorylation, we're breaking down fatty acids via beta oxidation into the Krebs cycle, creating a ton of ATP. Without the oxidative stress that you would doing glycolysis, you're making less ATP, and the phosphagen system and a creatine phosphate at those high intensity levels where you're doing power, short duration intervals, and then high power all out sprint intervals at the top end, that you are creating more oxidative stress up there. But this is where we need to work on getting a better, efficient fat metabolism and beta oxidation system, so your fat oxidation rates are improved. So we want to look at that. Now, so I put all these summaries in here, but what I was looking at is blood glucose to signal the hypothalamus can vary. We want to have blood glucose 70 to 90, maximum 100. But during exercise, what is low blood sugar? We don't want to go below 60 for hypoglycemic. That can impair performance and trigger stress response. Consuming carbohydrates before, during prolonged or intense workouts may help maintain these levels and ensure the hypothalamus receives signal for proper metabolic regulation. Maintain adequate blood glucose levels during exercise. Guideline is to consume 30 to 60 grams per hour of carbohydrate, but that depends on the intensity and the duration of the workout. If you are very efficient at burning fat and you're staying in zone 1, zone 2, where you're at your peak fat burning, I don't agree that I need 60 hours. If I'm racing and my heart rate's zone 3 or higher, where I'm burning zone 3, maybe half fat, half carbohydrates, I might find I do need to improve my performance to keep up with that intensity, having 30 to 60 grams per hour. But if I'm doing a zone 1, bottom of zone 2 workout where it's primarily fat fuel, I don't think I need to preload with a ton of carbohydrates. So we need to get personalized coaching here. For shorter, less intense exercise, maybe you need less. But my point of researching this was, what is the adequate blood glucose levels to have if I only need 1 teaspoon of sugar in my blood at one time? I don't need to have 30 grams, do I? That's what I'm asking. I don't disagree, but I'm just checking out what is that. So I've had Dr. Mickey on the show and Stacy Sims. I've followed her. I've read both books. I did her Menopause 2.0 program. I love them both and I like to learn from them, but I just think we need to individualize this information is the point of this video today. So Stacy talks about the hormone fluctuations, talks about nutrition. We just went over pre-workout and post-workout and adjusting your nutrition during follicular, the first half of your cycle, and the second half ovulation. Then we have luteal phase that we might need to increase carb intake slightly, focus on recovery in your luteal phase because the body's ability to access glycogen and build muscle is reduced. But that's what I question. Everyone always says that luteal phase, you need to add more carb, but we're insulin resistant. So it makes not a lot of sense to me. We should maybe work on timing those carbohydrates post a sprint interval session because we want lower stress workouts in luteal phase and then having your carbs post workout to fuel your exercise. But we are more insulin insensitive, so we can't access that stored glycogen. So we need to change our workouts in luteal phase, do more easier stuff, but our carb intake, we need to time around nutrition. Our workouts. Now we have women, perimenopause, postmenopause. She recommends 40 to 60 grams post-exercise to combat what I've talked about a lot. I find fascinating is anabolic resistance. As we get older and our estrogen lowers, we lose that estrogen and result is more anabolic resistance. So what we used to do 10 years ago, we have to double. Instead of 20 to 30 grams of protein or 30 to 40 grams of protein, we need 40 to 60 grams to do the same thing because we have to work harder to get those results. So my goal of getting stronger, leaner, and faster as I age, I have to do things differently than I did in my 40s. So now I need to focus on doubling up that protein, getting my essential aminos in the morning and at night. I'm doing 10 tablets, and that helps get 2 servings of essential aminos. So you need to focus on protein timing, distribution, eating diverse, whole foods, nutrient-dense food plan to help your gut and overall health. And as Stacy talks about, avoiding the state of low energy availability, which can impair recovery, metabolism, and hormone function. I totally agree. Only thing I question is the carbohydrate. I'm not anti-carb at all, but how much 30 grams is that needed? Can we do 10 grams is my question. All right, and then Dr. Mickey is a registered nutritionist, endurance athlete. She's a doctor as well in her field. And the intensity and duration training dictate the nutrition strategy. Dr. Mickey suggests focusing on balancing your macros based on the athlete's goals, fat adaptation versus hard carb fueling, training, and performance needs by focusing on avoid overfueling, or rather, the opposite end is underfueling. So the Goldilocks effect, how much is the right amount? Dr. Mickey talks about adjusting pre-workout fueling based on the intensity and length of the session, as I was just talking about. For higher intensity and endurance workouts, she suggests moderate carbohydrates, but for lower intensity or shorter sessions, she often emphasizes a fat-first approach, especially for athletes working on their metabolic efficiency. She also recommends post-workout mix of protein and carbohydrates to replenish glycogen and support recovery, but the amount of the carbohydrate depends on the athlete's goals. If you're more fat adapted, you might have suggestions from her to have a lower carb post-workout meal and emphasize protein and fats. So we don't hear about the word fats from other people. We want to have healthy fats, nutrient-dense foods, getting ideally quality protein is often grass-fed meat, wild-caught fish, but figuring out the right protein for you, what you like, and what make sure that agrees with your body. Now, Dr. Mickey works on menstrual cycle timing nutrition based on the menstrual cycle, but more personalized strategies based on performance goals. The follicular early phase, remember follicular ovulation, luteal phase, you might have her be suggesting to you higher carb fueling for those intense sessions. Remember, go back to that chart, what fuel source you're burning. And during the luteal phase, she may recommend scaling back intensity because we have more progesterone, our body's preparing to have a baby. We're a little more sensitive. We have to deal with managing our stress. So less high intensity workouts, that's going to be often our deload recovery week. And support recovery with anti-inflammatory foods. So getting more fish in your diet would be great. Now, Dr. Mickey's approach tends to emphasize metabolic flexibility, as I talk about all the time, and a personalized approach based on your goals, whether it be fat adaptation or optimizing your performance with a higher carb intake. So strategic carb timing we talk about. She considers gut health and digestive comfort as well as I do. She is more inclined to incorporate low carb, high fat strategies for long duration, lower intensity sessions to enhance fat burning capabilities. And she is now part of the board or guidance. I don't know what her role is at S Fuels, helping them with their nutrition. So metabolic flexibility, remember, is being able to burn fat as a main fuel source, switch carbohydrate metabolism when needed, and switch back to fat. So we need flexibility. Same with heart rate variability. You need to be shifting sympathetic nervous system to parasympathetic nervous system, have that resiliency and not be stuck in one or the other. You don't want to be sympathetic dominant. That's not good. We want to have flexibility in our nervous system, as with our fuel source for what we're burning at rest and during exercise at various intensities. We talked a lot about that on my Pinoy metabolism testing videos. So focus on that fat adaptation strategies for certain athletes, depending on the sport you're training for. But if you're just trying to be metabolically healthy, we want to work on that nutrition and carb timing based on your workout and your performance goals. And I look at genetics too. Like I'm more carb insensitive. I'm more prone to diabetes based on my genetics. All right, so Stacy has some articles on early morning workout fueling. So that's a big conversation. She's talking about her coffee drink, working on fueling. So you can go and read these rabbit hole summaries from her blogs. But what I was asking about, as Dr. Mickey mentioned, and I emailed her on this, if I'm efficient at burning fat because I don't eat, I'm not zero carb. I eat carbs. I just had potatoes with my burger patty and some pickles. I'm not zero carb. Probably could go lower carb than I already am. Probably eating too many carbs sometimes, but I know if I have too many of them, they're addicted to me and I'll overeat. So it's more my relationship with carbohydrates are more triggered to overeat. Not that they're bad for me. It's just they're bad for me because I'll eat too much. That's more my reason to be low carb. And I don't want to spike my blood sugar. So carbs to me, actually, that's what it is. They're addictive. And I just had those potatoes that are smashed potatoes. They're amazing, but I literally can eat all of them. And that's why I need to avoid or limit them. Talking about eating disorders, people I've interviewed, that's food moderator. They can't have just one or two. They have to have all of them or none of them. And that's why they do more of a carnivore diet. All right. So this was some points to consider. Fat oxidation, remember, is at lower intensities, the body primarily uses fat as fuel. This means you may not need as many carbohydrates compared to high intensity efforts. If your goal is to optimize fat burning, you might aim for lower carb intake before exercise, around 10 to 20 grams, especially for lower intensity workouts, because you don't need them, but you want to tell your body you're safe and you need that little fuel on board before you start metabolism fat, because it takes a little longer. So this can help your body adapt to using fat more efficiently. If you have a little bit, 10 grams is not much. Just maybe in your coffee drink. If you don't have coffee, maybe you have a little tea with something in it, or mud water, or make a little shake. But consuming, or have some berries. I always think about what real food you can have. Timing is really important. Consuming some carbohydrates before workout can be beneficial for performance, depending on the type of workout, duration, and intensity. Even if fat is your primary fuel, a small amount can help maintain energy levels without impacting fat oxidation rates. If you don't believe that, we can really individualize it. Test with my metabolism kit, do it fasted, and then do it with what you think you want to eat or test. And then we see how well are you burning fat with or without that fuel. Adaptation over time with consistent training in a higher fat diet is ketogenic, or I don't like the word ketogenic because now it's commercialized. Proper human diet, as Ken Berry talks about, Dr. Berry, your body can burn more fat as fuel, be more efficient at burning fat for fuel. This can reduce your need for carbohydrates during certain workouts. This is my whole point of this video today. If you are efficient at burning fat, do you need to have 30, 40 grams before a workout? I don't think so. I think 10 to 20 grams might be all you need. I didn't say 0. I said 10 grams. Try it out. So listen to your body. You are unique. You have an individual response. So you need to remember bioindividuality. It's important to experiment and find what works best for you, balanced between fat utilization and nailing those performance goals. If you don't feel good, you feel sluggish, you feel just slow and heavy, try adding in that strategic carb timing. Now, overall, carbohydrates can support those higher intensities, but training your body burn fat effectively can allow more flexibility in your fueling strategies. What you want to eat before you work out. Do you want some protein and some carbs before workout? Because what the workout is, what's it going to be? We want to prioritize protein in throughout the day because you're trying to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. So looking at strength training, do you need to fuel? How do you need to fuel? If you're doing a high heart rate work, we want to avoid being that catabolic breakdown state. So remember, when you're in catabolic, that's heavy resistance training, high intensity workout, cardiovascular workout, your body has more stress and you are burning lots of calories, but the muscle tissue can experience damage and breakdown due to this intense physical stress, leading to transient catabolic state. Remember what we started this video on today, hormesis, acute versus chronic. Cortisol, stress hormone, may be elevated after intense exercise, potentially promoting muscle protein breakdown. If the immediate aftermath of the workout, you don't want to be in breakdown, you may continue to experience some catabolic breakdown effects. So that is the basis, I think, of what they're saying. You need to eat something to get out of that catabolic state. So remember that. That's big. Now, anabolic state is building. I want to build muscle. I want to get stronger. I want to get leaner, more powerful. They're in response to resistance training. the body initiates the repair and the recover process. In the hours following exercise, especially if you provide your body with the nutrient-dense, proper nutrition, it shifts towards anabolic state. So if you consume protein and carbohydrates from nature, not crap, after exercise supports muscle repair and replenishes the glycogen stores in your muscles after your workout. Hormones as insulin and growth factors, growth hormones, play a role in promoting anabolism and tissue repair. So we want to transition from a catabolic breakdown state to an anabolic building state, but it doesn't happen immediately. And it can vary, as everything, based on the person, the intensity, the duration of the workout. So we need to find what strategies fueling post-workout and starting that recovery process, because that's where you get stronger. That's where you get all the benefits post-workout. Anabolic window. It's critical time for nutrient intake to support recovery and stimulate that muscle protein synthesis. If you're not getting the desired results from your program you're doing now, you might want to look at timing your nutrition, because I know it's easier not to eat anything at all. I did it for years. But if you want to have the body you want, recomposition, and you want to improve your performance in your favorite sports, you might want to work on figuring out that nutrition plan. So strategies to support anabolism, building muscle post-workout. Number 1, protein intake. Consuming adequate amount of protein post-workout provides those essential amino acids, get them on board to stimulate that muscle repair and growth. Carbohydrates are not evil. Crap. Carbs, garbage, are evil. Real food from nature, not so evil if it doesn't activate your blood glucose levels so high. So the carb source depends. Learn from Rob Wolf's video in his book. Now, carbohydrates help replenish muscle glycogen stores and support insulin release, which is an anabolic hormone. Insulin has cortisol. They're not bad. They're just need at the right time. They serve us well. But when we have them all the time, not so good. So insulin is beneficial certain times, as cortisol is beneficial in the morning. Now, hydration, a lot of people don't drink enough water, mineral water, filtered, hydrogen water. I've been doing with my Echo water bottle and adding minerals to it. So getting hydration is not drinking plain water. You do not sweat out water, you sweat out minerals. So replace those minerals you sweat out with adding minerals in your water. Lots of options out there. Now, get them without sugar, unsweetened. Don't do the stuff with stevia, monk fruit, whatever sweetener, because then you're just possibly craving more sweet. Rest is your sleep. That's where you recover and repair, and the anabolic process is happening while we sleep. If you're not prioritizing sleep, you might want to start doing that first before you work on the rest of the stuff. Now, cardio, we get a lot of cardio junkies because we have the mindset, the mentality that I want to lose weight, which needs to be, I need to lose fat weight, and I need to increase my metabolism by increasing my lean body mass. So instead of thinking I need to eat less and work out more, spending time doing more cardio, rewire that message in our head. Speeding up your metabolism is a solution to lose fat weight and the type of workout you're doing. So figuring out a true zone 2, not some calculation, figuring out your strength training routine and nutrition to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. Doing cardio, not excessive, and HIIT training 2 times a week, max 3. Every workout, you're in that zone 3, not good. So you might be stuck in that catabolic breakdown state by overtraining and under recovery because you're doing too much of that zone 2 or zone 3 workout. You're not doing true zone 2, and you're not doing true interval training that you're coming zone 5 to zone 1. That's sprint interval training. You got to do it right to get the results. So immediately after heavy resistance training or high intensity workout, you might experience elements of catabolism and anabolism, breakdown of building. The key is to provide your body with the right nutrients and rest to facilitate recovery and the transition into a more anabolic building state to support that muscle protein synthesis, repair, growth, and overall adaptation. So if you want to improve your body composition, we don't want to lose weight. Remember, we want to increase our metabolism by increasing lean body mass, losing fat weight, increasing lean tissue. So the nutrition, meal timing, amino acids, lab testing, avoiding low energy availability, getting the right nutrition. So get some ebooks on my website. Did one a few years ago on fasting versus fed exercise. 12 hours is all we should do as athletes and females. You don't need to do 16-8. You're getting the benefits for cell autophagy from your exercise and coffee. So go into that information, plan ahead, getting out of that breakdown state. We don't need more stress in our body. So you can look at that nutrient timing, working on gut health. Long distance endurance training breaks down our gut and can cause leaky gut, immune system dysfunction, dysbiosis. So knowing this information on how long distance endurance exercise impacts gut health, leaky gut, dysbiosis, you can read this information, hot weather, how that can impact your gut health, and how nutrition is important. So the blog, I go in these incredible deep rabbit holes. So just, you don't have to read it all. But this is interesting. If you looked at, all right, I need those amino acids post-workout. How much amino acid do you get through leucine into steak? I was looking that up. Ribeye, sirloin, tenderloin, New York steak, and then plant-based protein. How much leucine to get that if you're plant-based. So look at the options, look at what's good for pre-workout fuel source. If you get 20 grams of protein, get the right leucine, maybe you need some eggs and some meat, or you're having some chia seed pudding or something. So lots to think about. I think we want to get out of that catabolic state and focus on getting your nutrition. Focus on how you can raise your metabolism, increase your lean mass, get more exercise, get enough protein, get your meals, manage your stress, and more. So head to the website to learn more. And I want to hear from you. So let me know what your questions are to improve the aging process, how you age, and improve your body composition, speeding up your metabolism, lowering your fat, and increasing your lean body mass. So let's talk about what's best for you. Head to debbiepotts.net and share this with someone that might be struggling with their nutrition and exercise and lifestyle program, because this rabbit hole might be something they need to listen to. Thanks for paying attention and give me your feedback.